Okay, so get out of the sunlight there if I can. Yesterday, we finished this corner here. I'm going to do the same on the other side today. So, and then probably button up the front. But we're having a family get-together for Memorial Day, so I don't know how much will get done before that gets started. So, you might be wondering what the straw is here. No, I'm not building my tiny house out of straw. One of the three little pigs taught me not to do that. But what happened is, because the bus has been opened up for so long, I had a clamp right up there, and a bird tried to build its nest, or started building a nest on that clamp. So when you have your bus opened up during the springtime, which is probably not the best time to do a roof raise, birds may try to build nests in it. And also, this is where they took their poop breaks while they were on the construction project. So anyhow, just a little amusement there. We got birds and spiders and other critters visiting the bus. When I was still fixing the engine, I had a mouse living in that compartment right there while it was parked at the diesel mechanic shop for forever. So anyhow, just a little bit of a lighthearted amusement. Okay, so I'm on the ladder here. I got this piece of metal clamped in place on the driver's side. I probably shouldn't have put that top rivet in, but it looks like it's close enough here. The edge is a little off, but not a real big deal. So I may pull this down slightly to even it out. So anyhow, I'm going to start drilling holes here in a minute to rivet this, so the clamps don't have to hold any longer. I also need to tuck a piece of metal up in there. Probably need to angle grind that rivet that's in the way. So I have the bottom holes drilled here. Now I'm going to get the caulk, start a fresh tube of caulk, get the bottom ones riveted, then I'll drill the top up there. Okay, so I got that bottom row of rivets in place on that panel. Now I'm going to go up top. I got to drill out a rivet that's too tight. It's causing that to bulge out. And then I'll drill the top row of rivets. So, and put them in. So after that, we'll put the other corner on. Okay, so I got that top row in. That little slit will get welded. I put the little plate in place to fix that other cut. So at this point, I'm going to start doing the corner. Okay, so I've measured a 39-inch length here, marked it with the yellow line. I'll grind that piece, and I'll do what I did up here. Take the ends off, unfurl one, and that way it'll flex properly. Alright, so I've got that piece in, and I've started on this piece that I cut for the corner. That's about it for today. It's hella hot, I'm tired, and it's time for a family function. Okay, so I am back at the bus here. I'm going to try to get that panel put in place and cut the center panel and get it secured, and then I'll be done with the reskinning sufficient that I can move the bus back to its original spot, and that way the welder will be hooked up to my 220 extension cord that I made from that shop building over there instead of the generator, and that will allow me to do a better job welding the back hatch cover and the door frame and other things that need welding. So anyhow, hope to get this knocked out here in a short time, and then I can go back and finish securing the new tailpipe sections to the new muffler back there before moving the bus, since I already have it up on blocks. Make it a little easier to get under there and do that. So that's the plan. Alright, so I did get this piece wrapped around the corner. It's a little off, but not so far off I can't just put the next piece over it. So I'm going to trim that bottom, put the overlapping piece on, and I may go 2 layers deep so that the wind load doesn't make the metal bump a little bit too much in the during driving. So anyhow, that's where I'm at. It took a while today messing with this corner. It didn't go as smooth as the first one. Okay, so I'm going to have 2 layers of metal here sandwiching one inside, one overlapping outside, because I want the front of the bus to be extra strong in the middle. Based on the wind load of driving, I don't want it to rattle. So right now I'm, believe it or not, out of rivets again. 400 more gone. So I've got some of those coming on Sunday, but until then I'm going to use some 1/4 inch bolts on the 2 layers of metal here that I'm putting in place. So right now I'm going to drill some holes just to stabilize that sheet, and then I'll drill holes on the edges, and then I have this smaller sheet of metal here that will go overlapping on the other side, and that should definitely be stiff, having 2 different layers of 18 gauge once I'm done in the middle. So that's the plan. Alright, so I wire wheeled and primed the outer edge of the second layer of metal. This one's going to sit for a little bit and dry while I'm doing the fastening of this back layer here. So I did that to prevent rust from forming behind and dripping down, you know, discoloring paint later. So, and the top edge there, that goes against the upper part where the overlap will make it inconsequential whether I paint it or not on this side. So anyhow, that's what I was doing there. Okay, so I have a couple of bolts in that one. At this point, what I'm going to do is run 3/16 rivets along the bottom of that one there and that one there, such that I can hold this middle piece in place. And then after I've sufficiently held in place, I will put that one in place. So I'm also going to run a row of rivets down the edges, 3/16. So I've got to take a quick measurement. I'm going to run it off the black line there at the top on each side, straight down using the square. I'll draw a line, and then I'll space the 3/16 rivets out. And after that's done, then I can rivet this other one in place right there. Okay, so I don't know if you can see it, but I've laid out some yellow dots for 3/16 rivet holes there with the paint pen. Did it on both sides. I'm going to drill those holes and cinch that up tight with rivets on the bottom lip. That will hold this piece in place, allowing me to remove those bolts once I've got the 3/16 rivets holding it. Okay, so I've got some 3/16 rivets popped into the bottom there. And then I'm going to go over to that side and do the same. After I've got the bottom popped, my next step would be to put this piece in place in the center, overlapping. And I think I'm going to bolt it at the top there with a couple of bolts to start with. Okay, so I've got that center piece of metal roughed in. None too soon. It's threatening to have a pretty good thunderstorm here. And it's time to call it quits. Yeah, I don't want to stay out here much longer. I'm sure that shows up in the audio, that roll of thunder. Okay, so it's kind of an overcast day, a little cooler. Cool enough I put sweats on today. But right here I'm laying out to take 3 inches off the edge there. This is going to go in the center as a double layer with the correct overlap. I'm going to start by screwing it at the top, or bolting it at the top with 1/4 inch bolts, and then I'm going to run a rivet line down the side right there to hold it all together. So we'll use 3/16 rivets. Later I'm going to come back and do a row of 1/4 around the bottom, and then where that center bolt is on that brown panel, there'll be a line of 1/4 inch rivets there and at the top. So basically frame it out that way. But for now we're going to use 3/16 because it's what I have. Okay, so I have the holes on each end pre-drilled at the top, and then I have the caulk ready to go. Got caulk in the middle to seal the two panels together. I'll be putting lines of rivets in the middle as well, or a line of rivets in the middle going along an angle iron that's there. Anyhow, just about ready to put up this panel. I don't know how well that's showing up in the picture, but I've got a line of 3/16 rivets going across the angle iron inside of the bus to hold the middle of the sheet in place. Putting this last piece up was pretty tough. It's probably a little bit crooked, but I guess it's these little nuances I'll look at later and remember doing the job. So anyway, you know, it doesn't all have to be perfect, just functional. So, but that's secured. Now I'm going to run down the edges with some more rivets, and then the bottom and top will get a couple more bolts for now till my other 1/4 inch rivets come in. So I recommend, if you're doing a roof raise, just order 2,000 rivets and be done with it. Okay, so I've got the front buttoned up as best I can without having my 1/4 inch rivets. I spared no caulk here, so it ought to be nice and watertight. And it's 2 layers of metal in the middle. I did that because of wind load when driving. I figured it would be better for keeping it from rattling around. So at this point, except for the back hatch, I've got the side panels on, or all the panels on except for the back hatch. To do that, I'm going to move the bus back over to that shop building, the red building in the background there, so that I have access to my welding power on the 220 volt extension cord instead of using the generator. So I think at this point I'm going to clean up, and that's about all I can do right now till my rivets get here. And here's the view inside the bus right now. It's kind of a mess, but you can see how cavernous it is with this big roof raise and all the sheet metal up. The only spot that needs done here is this back hatch and these back panels. I'm debating whether I'm going to try to reuse the factory panels with the windows there. That might make more sense. We'll see if they work. My next project here, I'm going to connect this new muffler to the tailpipe. I want to do that while I have the bus raised up. Makes it a lot easier to have the ground clearance to get under there and do it. After that, I will get the debris out of the air filter and move the bus is the plan. Got to clean up the ground with a magnet real quick, make sure I don't puncture any tires now or puncture car tires. You know, I'm going to do that both where I'm putting the bus and in this spot before I move it. We have a magnet on wheels that'll hopefully get all the debris. But right now, fixing the muffler. Okay, so I am under the tailpipe and muffler. I have a stainless steel elbow going over to the muffler. Right now I've got one of these 360 clamps that's supposed to seal all directions. Instead of welding the pipe, I think this will work okay just to kind of wedge it in there. There's not an overlap on this elbow I got. I bought it off Amazon, so I wasn't sure what the approach would be here, but this clamp will work. Eventually I'll probably weld these two pipes together with a TIG welder, since this is stainless and this is steel. Anyhow, I'm going to tighten this up. Alright, so the exhaust worked pretty well, although one of my band clamps was missing a bolt. But I've got this turned to the side now. I figure if we tow a vehicle, I'd rather the exhaust was pushing out the side than straight out the back. Hopefully keep the vehicle a little less sooty. I've got some paint I'm going to hit this with. Probably do that tomorrow right before I move the bus here. But But yeah, it looks to be pretty good here. I had to check the angle on it. I think it's angled the wrong direction a bit. I probably need to raise the end over here so water will drain out of it, since water is a byproduct of combustion. So anyhow, that's done. Pretty much done. Okay, so the agenda today, still waiting on my rivets that are supposed to be delivered sometime today. The agenda right now is just to clean up outside the bus. I'm gonna run the magnet across the ground, get any bits of this and that that might puncture tires picked up, and then we're going to get this bus. I got to reconnect the battery. I got to check the air cleaner for debris, make sure it's not going to suck in any bad metal shavings or anything. And then we're going to move the bus over by the shop where it was originally. So that's the agenda today. It's not very exciting, but it's needing done. Once it's over there, more exciting stuff. I'm going to try to clean up inside so that I have ability to start working on the floor. And then the next major thing we're going to do is get this door installed. So that's today's plan. So I did actually hit this exhaust with a coat of 2000 degree high heat primer. I don't know how effective it'll be, but if I hit it with paint every once in a while, it ought to last longer than without. So some of the sections I got were stainless, but not everything. So anyhow, hopefully that makes the muffler last longer. Okay, so it looks like the nest here got eggs laid in it. Hopefully when I move the bus, the bird is smart enough to move 100 yards over that way and find the nest. I sure hope anyway. I'm not going to leave the door closed until I'm sure the babies are hatched, but you know, hopefully moving the bus won't confuse it too much. But I got to move it. Okay, so I got the battery reconnected, made sure the air filter was cleaned out, no metal shavings. Got everything inside the bus here. Still have some stands underneath, but I expect the bus will lift off of those when the airbags inflate, making it easier to remove them. Hopefully that works. We're about to find out. So anyhow, I'm going to start the bus, let it run for a couple minutes, and get the stands out. Started right up, no problem after being parked for a couple months. It's a good sign. Good oil pressure. Alright, so I'm going to start putting stuff back in, or taking stands out, I mean. Okay, so I have all the stands out. Now I'm going to back the bus up toward the shop. It's always fun to drive it. Okay, so I've got the bus moved by the shop again. I'll probably want to even it out a bit, cribbing up the back wheel at some point, but for now I'm done for the day, except for a little cleanup over there and running the magnet to make sure car tires don't get punctured from steel mandrels from rivets.